Hello, good morning to everyone. The topic of my today's lecture is the sugar code carbohydrate as informational molecule. So, glycobiology, as we all know, is the study of structures and function of glycoconjugate. Cell uses specific oligosaccharides to encode some very important functions in the cell, which is intracellular targeting of the protein, cell-cell interaction, the tissue development, extracellular signal. Now, just to give you a comparison between sugar code, protein code and genetic code. Sugar code is one of the most diverse code in the universe. So the reasons for the diversity in the sugar code is there are variety of linkages between various saccharide units like 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 2 to 3, 2 to 6. Branch structures not found in the nucleic acid or proteins, and these are however very common structures in oligosaccharides. Now on the top there are different configuration. So we say that there is an alpha configuration, there is a beta configuration. Now there are varieties of monomers. So as we all know, for example, assuming 20 different monosaccharides which are available. So if we calculate, there are about 1.44 into 10 raised by 15 hexameric oligosaccharides which are possible as compared to only 20 raised by 6 hexapeptides. So now you can see a comparison between the saccharides and the peptides. So peptides are only 20 raised by 6, and however the oligosaccharides is about 10 raised by 15, which is very high number as compared to only 4 raised by 6 hexanucleotides. So now building this kind of a comparison, we know that sugar code is much diverse as compared to proteins and the nucleic acid. Further on the top, we can have sulfation of one or more residue, which makes it even more diverse. So the number of possible oligosaccharides increases by 2 orders of the magnitude. So what do we now conclude out of this? Each of the oligosaccharide represented presents a unique three-dimensional face. So now various pathogens, what are they using this oligosaccharide for? For as an antigen. So every time an antigen is coming, every time a pathogen is coming, so it is coming with a newer face, a word in the sugar code which is readable by the protein that interacts with it. Now let's see what is the protein which can read this sugar code. So now coming to lectins. Lectins are the proteins that read the sugar code and mediate many biological processes. Lectin found in all organisms are the proteins that bind carbohydrates with higher affinity and specificity. Lectins serve in a wide variety of functions pertaining to cell recognition, signaling and adhesion processes, intracellular targeting of the newly synthesized protein. In vitro, lectins are used in detecting and separating glycoprotein. Then over it can also decide the half-life of the hormones, protein, RBCs, etc. Now to give you some insight into various functions of lectin, I'll quote some examples and then we conclude. Oligos can affect the half-life of the hormones. Now, for instance, the peptide hormone that circulates in the blood have oligosaccharide moieties that strongly influence their circulating half-life. For example, luteinizing hormone and thyrotropin, they have N-linked oligosaccharides ending with this disaccharide. Now, this is the disaccharide with which these hormones are ending with. Now, receptor hormone interaction mediates the uptake and the destruction of luteinizing hormone and thyrotropin. Now, why is this periodically rising or falling? The rise is because of the newer secretion and the fall is because of the destruction by the hepatocyte. So, hepatocytes are taking up the hormone and destroying it. Now, it has been seen that females with this congenital defect in the enzyme involved in the pathways producing this oligosaccharide often fail to undergo the sexual changes of puberty, although males with the same defect develop normally. So, now you can see that this oligo is so very important for the growth and the maturation of a female. Now, to give you the second instance where the oligo is involved, it is the role of sialic acid in affecting circulatory half-life of the proteins and RBCs. Residue of sialic acid situated, now this is the molecule of the sialic acid. Now residue of the sialic acid situated at the end of the oligosaccharide chain of many glycoprotein protect these proteins from the uptake and the degradation in the liver. Now once these proteins are circulating in the body, this sialic acid is being removed, and this is how the hepatocytes are able to sense that which one is the older protein, which one is the newer protein. Now let's look at one of the example, and this is about the ceruloplasmin, which is a copper containing serum glycoprotein. It has oligosaccharide chain ending in sialic acid. Now, removal of the sialic acid residue by the enzyme sialidase, which is also called as neuraminidase, is one of the way in which the body marks the older protein for destruction and replacement. So, now can you see that once this protein is circulating in the body, it encounters this enzyme, which is sialidase, and sialidase will actually cleave off the sialic acid, which is at the end of the oligosaccharide moieties, right? And this is how now the protein can be differentiated. Okay, this is an older protein and this is a newer protein. An older protein is marked for destruction. The plasma membrane of hepatocytes have lectin molecules, which are also called as asialoglycoprotein receptor. So once the sialic acid is being chopped off from the protein, now this protein can be recognized by this lectin molecule, which is asialoglycoprotein receptor, that specifically binds to these protein, and now these proteins are taken up by the liver and these proteins are marked for destruction. So receptor ceruloplasmin interaction triggers endocytosis and destruction of the protein. Okay, this is the flowchart showing the same process. Ceruloplasmin is protected with sialic acid. So this protection actually helps against the uptake of the protein. So now once this protein is circulating in the blood, it encounters the enzyme sialidase. Now sialidase will chop off the sialic acid residue, and that's how this protein, which is an older protein, can be now recognized by asialoglycoprotein receptor, and now this protein can be taken up by the hepatocyte and it can be marked for destruction. Okay, so now let's look at the mechanism again, just to give you a more clarity over the concept. Newly synthesized erythrocytes have several membranes, glycoprotein with oligosaccharide chain that ends in sialic acid. When the sialic acid residue are removed by withdrawing a blood, so in this particular experiment, what the scientists they did was they took out the protein, or they took out the erythrocyte and treated it with the sialidase enzyme. Now sialidase enzyme, what it does, it removes the sialic acid residue from the end of the carbohydrate moiety, and now this particular treated RBC is reintroduced into the circulation. Now once it is reintroduced, now what happens, since it is treated and now the end of the proteins do not have the sialic acid residue, so now these proteins can be recognized by the asialoglycoprotein receptors, and that's how these RBCs can be taken up by the liver and they can be destroyed. Now coming to the third function which I would like to talk about is the involvement of lectin and oligo interaction in the pathogenesis of the disease. For example, heme agglutinin sialic acid interaction is very important for the interaction of the virus with the cell. The lectin of the influenza virus, the HA protein, which is also called as hemagglutinin, it attaches to the host cell through the interaction with the oligosaccharide displayed on the host cell surface, and thus it promotes the viral entry and the infection. After initial binding of the virus to a sialic acid containing oligosaccharide on the host surface, a viral sialidase removes the terminal sialic acid residue. It triggers the entry of the virus into the cell. Now, what we can use for clinical practice is the inhibitor of the sialidase. So, if we use an inhibitor of the sialidase, so sialic acid will be chopped off, right? In the generally which was being chopped off will not be now removed, and this can be used for clinical practices in the treatment of influenza. Now, just to conclude the session, lectins serve in a wide variety of functions pertaining to cell-cell recognition, signaling and adhesion processes, intracellular targeting of newly synthesized protein. In vitro lectins are being used for detecting and separating glycoprotein. Now, it also decides the half-life of the hormones and protein and RBCs, etc. Now, from this particular session, what do we learn? That lectins are very, very important for the various functions. Thank you very much for your kind attention.